How's it going, folks? You've made it to video 3. Congratulations. This video has a lot to do with the last video. I like to build. I like any good building. We started a good foundation and work our way up. We're still on mentality. This video is what I call get a lead mentality. I wrote a book several years ago called 101 Ways to Lead Generate. You'll see it behind me. 101 Ways to Lead Generate in Real Estate. And I wish more people read introductions. I find on most business books, entrepreneurial books, self-help books, all these kind of things, I find that the introduction can have some of the best insights of the entire book. My book is no different. If I wish more people read the introduction, and if they did, they would find out that in that introduction I say, yes, there's 101 ways to lead generate in real estate in this book, but there are a billion ways to lead generate in real estate. It really is about getting your mind right, opening up your mind to understanding that you can lead generate in real estate, in title, in lending, if you would open up your mind and get your mind right, okay? Everything I know in life, in my 41 years of life that I've learned as an adult, my parents were wonderful parents, but they taught me, again, this goes back to like Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My parents taught me to be poor. It's what they knew. It doesn't make them bad people. It's just what they knew. And I was along that same path, right? And when my father passed away when I was young, I was 21 years old, and it made me realize there was this light went off in my head that my father worked 18 hours a day. He died because he didn't have a choice. He died with nothing to give us. No, there was no he didn't even have a life insurance policy, right? So he was an awesome dad, but this is what he left for me. Now, why is that important when I get a lead mentality? Is because it taught me that there's got to be a different way. And what I learned as I started to learn about money and finance, and I've applied to real estate and everything else, is that all of these things are about learning. It's about mentality. If your mind is not right, if you aren't looking at things in the right perspective, it doesn't make building a business, building a real estate business, building a show, it doesn't make these things impossible. It just makes them extremely difficult. You've got to get your mind right. The secret to all of this stuff, and again, I'm sure you've heard this before, if you've spent any time learning about business, learning about entrepreneurship and these kind of things, getting your mind right is 90% of the battle, right? You are here taking this class, taking this course because you want to know these kind of things to help you skip over that curb. You don't need to take years to learn these things that it took me to learn. I'm giving them to you in a much shorter period of time. This is the whole point. So you're on the right track. Okay, now the get a lead mentality, we have to figure out how do we double, triple, quadruple, right, quintuple our business if our mind, what do we need to change about our insight to do that kind of change in our business? It's really simple. First of all, I'm going to get some of you really riled up and angry. What chances are you've been taught in the lead generation realm is probably wrong. The old school belief that we need a database of hundreds, thousands of people because randomly, statistically, some of them are going to want to buy and sell homes. Or again, like we talked about last one, that everybody is potentially our client. I'm sorry, it's wrong. You've got the wrong mentality. You don't need hundreds of leads. And again, can we go back and define a lead? A lead is not what, for some reason, we've created this cycle because of companies like Zillow and Redfin and other companies across the country that we are not buying leads from these people. We're buying data, right? It's not a lead. A lead to me is someone that realistically wants to buy and sell a home. I don't need data. I don't need hundreds and thousands of leads when they're not leads. You're buying data, right? And then you're hoping in that data they turn into a lead, right? We need to stop using those words as leads or not. A get a lead mentality, if I told you could double, triple, quadruple your business and all you had to do was change your way of thinking, wouldn't that be a great thing? Here's the secret, okay? The secret is going out and generating one real lead a day. Just one. Now think about this for a second. If you've been in business a while and you've done any of this data collecting, as I call it, right? And you've worked your butt off calling these random people or random phone numbers, or you've been Facebook advertising or social media advertising, and just because they gave you their email address and their telephone number, you're sitting there and you're calling them and calling them, calling them and texting them and texting them and texting them, and you've been down that road. Think about it. Instead of collecting all that information, what if you went out and you talked to enough people today, no matter how you did it, and I'll do a whole nother class on the 101 ways to lead generate and stuff like that. But imagine if you went out and you talked to enough people today that you created one realistic lead today. And then you did that every day, 5 days a week for an entire year. You take 2 days off every week. You take every holiday off. You take your Christmas and all the time your family needs. But your job, no matter whether you have an hour today or you have 12 hours today, your one job is to go get one real lead. You'd have about 200 leads a year. Now, if I gave you 200 real leads, people that loved you, wanted to do business with you, they want to buy or sell, or you had 200 real estate agents if you're lending or title, right? And you had 200 real leads, how many could you close? 25%? 50%? 75%? Now, if you were closing just 25% of those real leads, that'd be 50 deals in a year. 50 deals in pretty much any market would be able to put you in the top 5%, if not the top 1% of your market. One real lead a day. Get it in your first hour, take the rest of the day off. I don't care. The point is if we did it on a regular basis, it would change your business. It would double, triple, quadruple, and all it would be is a change in your mentality. Stop buying data and change your mentality, right? Now, how do we do this one lead in a day? And we'll get into lead generation and stuff like that. But you got to start with, one, again, a change in mentality, but two, an accountability partner. Mine was my wife, right? Now, some people may be strong enough to figure out, okay, I'm going to change my mentality, I'm going to get my one lead a day, and you are strong enough to do it with your own self, and that is awesome. Most of us are not that way, right? So my accountability partner was my wife. Now, I'm married to a 6-foot redhead. I love her. We've been together for 20 years, but she still to this day scares the living daylights out of me. So when I was trying to change my mentality, and I didn't come up with this mentality, it was taught to me by a mentor friend of mine. He is amazing. He was in the industry for a very long time. He's a great guy, and I'm very fortunate to have learned this from him. That in the beginning, it was, okay, find yourself an accountability partner. Let them know that they need to check in with you every day, and you're just not allowed to go home without a lead. Now, mine was, again, my wife, right? So she knew that I was going to leave in the morning, and I just wasn't going to come home without a lead. And her responsibility in that was, if I was walking through the door, where's your lead? Who did you talk to today? Who is that lead? How is it a real lead? Prove it to me. Now, I love her and appreciate her for what she's done for me in my life. Believe me, I wouldn't be the person I am without my wife and children. But this is one of the things she took very seriously. And one of my tricks of the trade is if I got throughout a day, for example, and I'd gone to a couple of networking events and that kind of stuff, and I hadn't found my lead, one of the best investments I've ever made in my entire life was I drive around, of course I'm a Texan, I drive around in this big blue Toyota Tundra. Right? Just a massive truck. And on the side of it, I had it wrapped, and all it says, quite simply, is bigmaninrealestate.com, and these big, huge white letters on this blue truck. So it's very easy to see me driving around the city, right? So one of my secrets to getting a lead, if I hadn't found one at the end of the day, was literally stop by 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or however many gas stations I needed to on the way home and get gas, right? And the reason is because I don't know how it works in your state, but in mine, especially here in Austin, you sit at a gas pump long enough, whoever's pumping gas on the other side, you get bored, you start talking to each other. So inevitably, if I sat and I went to strategically a couple of gas stations that were in neighborhoods, again, knowing my audience, knowing who my potential clients are, and knowing who is stopping for gas at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right, and where they're stopping, I can sit there and talk to enough people that eventually somebody goes, hey, you in real estate? No, I sell carpet for a living. Absolutely, I'm in real estate. Okay, it's, again, I did it on purpose. It was on purpose, right? You have to get your mind right and get that one lead a day, 5 days a week, every week, and all of a sudden you'll find yourself with more leads than you had. Now, that get a lead mentality, it's also about getting that lead, but it's about keeping them. Now, I want to tell you, again, going back to buying data and our mentality of today's world, you need to understand how in today's world of social media. Now, I'm not saying I don't use social media to leverage to gain leads. I absolutely do. And I use social media advertising and everything. It should be a small tool in your tool belt, but you need to realize what it is. Statistically speaking, social media lead generation, right, converts on a national level at less than 1%. Now, I'm not a mathematician, but if I know that by a 1% conversion rate means I mean to convince 100 people to give me their information before I might find one that leads to a deal for me. Now, I can spend my time and energy and money on that, or I can get my butt out of my office every day and go find a realistic person to connect with. Again, know my audience, right? And know where they are, who they are, and how to find them. Right? That's why you're doing this show, is so that you can then leverage social media to get those information that are of people that are like-minded, to find those people that are like-minded, right? So be careful know what it is you're getting into. I want you to convert at a much higher rate, and how you do that is connect with people. That's what your show is about, is connecting with those people. Now, one of those ways, and again, we're going to have a whole nother class video on past clients, vendors, and referrals, but I want you to understand some things. This goes right back to get a lead mentality. Why do we want to have the right mentality, right? Referrals is part of getting a lead. Past clients are part of getting a lead. Talking to your past clients is part of getting a lead. 80% of people use a different real estate agent every time they do a transaction. Now, why is that? It could be that a person didn't last because they weren't growing properly, so they're not an agent anymore. But really, it's because we don't keep track of our past clients. It's insanity to me, right? Why we don't do this. What that means to me, honestly, is we are falling down on the job. We, for some reason, are so worried about finding that next deal and the next deal and the next deal, we don't realize by connecting with people, knowing who they are, knowing our audience, and staying connected with them, it leads to business after business after business after business after business. It just does, okay? Now, to do that realistically, we have to know our audience means knowing our past clients. We have to connect to them in real life, meaning it's not just about real estate. One of the greatest people I know about getting referrals is this agent I know in California. She is absolutely amazing. She's been doing this for years. She sends out a monthly snail mail newsletter. Isn't it amazing how things run in cycles? For years, we got away from, sending out letters and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, getting something in the mail that's not junk mail, that's not advertising, is just such an amazing thing. But, excuse me. Anyway, the point though is the fact that she sends out a monthly newsletter, and 99.9% of the time, other than her logo, right, her company name, it has nothing to do with real estate. It is 100% has to do with her and her grown kids and how proud of them she is because one of them did this and she taught them that when they were little, and it's some story about her family. And if she, for some reason, she loves to tell her story, I'm going to tell a story here, that there was a month that she didn't get it sent out on time or didn't get it put together on time or whatever. Anyway, it was late and people started calling her on the phone going, I've got to know what happened to Billy Bob last month because he was going through this and that and whatever. And I'm so used to getting it on this certain time frame. I wanted to make sure it was coming out this month or whatever it was. Did I miss it? How did I get off the list? All of these kind of things, right? That's a great thing. She's made herself a part of their lives. There's another lady I know. Again, amazing. She spent her entire life. She's actually from Dallas. She'd spent her entire life. She was a stay-at-home mom. She had no. That was her career path, which I think is admirable. That's amazing that she had the ability to stay home and dedicate her life to her kids and that kind of stuff. But she was now an empty nester. The kids had gone off to college. They're all adults now, and she's like, well, what am I going to do, right? Somebody had suggested to her to get into real estate, that she would make a good real estate agent. Well, and that's great, but she thought to herself, she was like, well, how am I going to, I've got no commercial experience. I've got no sales experience. How am I going to be a good real estate agent? How am I going to build a business? And we sat down and we looked at it, and again, mentality, right? Get a lead mentality is about getting your brain right about how you're going to build your business. And in her case, what she had done without even knowing it, she had built her network, her database, her people that care about her and what she's doing for business. She'd been building it for 20 years. She didn't need sales experience. She didn't need to understand. What she needed to understand was how she was going to leverage what she's done her whole life, the people that love her or care about her audience, and how to get those people to understand what she's doing now. This lady went on to be Rookie of the Year at her office that year. She's now a top 5% in her business. Why? Because she was president of the PTA for 20 years. She was involved in the booster clubs and everything. Everybody in her area, in her neighborhood, in her school network knew who this lady was because she was altruistic for the last 20 years and made her kids and their kids a huge part of her life. That's what get a lead mentality means. It means, what are you doing today to get that one lead that helps build your business? What if you took 10 people? Again, this goes back to referrals and stuff like this. We have a tendency to think that we need databases of hundreds, if not thousands of people. You don't need all of that. What you need, think about it. How would it change your business if you had 10 people that referred you 3 or 4 deals a year? Just 10. If you identified the 10 people, there's a great book out there called The Tipping Point. And in The Tipping Point, it describes several different types of or categories of people. One of those categories is called what he calls the connector, right? The connector, and you may be the connector in your group of friends, but the connector is essentially that person that if your refrigerator breaks or you want to buy a new car, whatever situation you find yourself in life, the connector is that person that you call up and go, hey, Joe Bob, my refrigerator just broke. Who's that person that you call to fix it? Right? Or, hey, I'm looking for a new car. Who's that salesperson you use all the time? Or who's your insurance agent? A connector is that person. Every group of friends has at least one, right? And again, you may be that person that everybody calls up and says, hey, what about who is, that kind of thing. They're the connector. And the reason they're the connector is because the same reason you're taking this course. You don't want to take years to figure out how to create your own show, how to leverage it to build a real estate business, right? Or recruit realtors or whatever it is you're trying to do. You don't want to spend years like I did. You want to cut that corner. You want to get the information out of these videos. A connector works in the same way. It's the person that you call that you automatically trust who they trust. You automatically know when they say call Bob the mechanic, that mechanic, they've already done their research. They know that Bob is not only knowledgeable, but they're probably less expensive or whatever it may be. That's what makes them a connector. That's what you need in your business. A get a lead mentality is how to work smarter, not harder, and how to focus on the right things. So in a referral, to get your referrals each year, you don't need hundreds of people in your database. You definitely don't need thousands of people in your database. You need 10 good people that refer you business every single year, like clockwork. And that becomes the base of your business. And then the leads that you're getting day in and day out are just icing. You got to have cake and you got to have icing to the cake. Man, I love me some cake, right? Icing is great, but icing goes on cake, right? The sphere of influence, right? When I wrote the book 101 Ways to Lead Generate, one of the first things that are in the introduction is sphere of influence isn't even in the book because it should be automatic. Your sphere of influence should be of people that love and care about you and trust you. But part of this, again, that mentality of get a lead, all of this assumes you're good at what you do. You've got to learn the real estate business. If you're a lender, you got to learn lending and what your agents want and that kind of stuff. If you're in title, same thing. You got to be good at your job first. I am assuming that you're good at your job. Okay, I don't cover that in these videos. All right, you've got to be good at your job. You got to be good at what you do. You got to be good with people. Whoever those people are you choose that are your audience, you got to start with being good at your job. Right? We'll talk about, I'll do a whole nother video for you on personal branding and logos and sponsoring your kids and all that kind of stuff and vendors and how to work with all of that kind of stuff. But again, this video is about getting your mentality right, okay? Get a lead mentality. Understand that you need one real lead today. You don't need thousands. You need one. You can get that through Facebook if you're connecting with people on Facebook. You can get that through meeting people at a networking event if you know how to do that properly. You can get that from sitting at a gas station today, okay? You can get it at all the different ways you want to. And I can do some videos on specifically certain types of lead generations if you like. But first thing, before you get into all of that, change the way your mind works. And how we change that is getting into good habits each day. All right? I'm glad you're here. Move on to the next video. We'll see you the next time around. Appreciate you.